Insects are becoming a trend. The Western diet has to kind of shift and change. And most importantly, it's natural, it's normal, and it's the way that we have to feed the future. We're facing big global challenges. People don't believe that they can make a change, but you really, really can, because you making a change is the only change you can really make. When it times is by 9 billion people, it makes a fundamental difference to the way that we live on this planet.
I think it will go, it will, first of all, it will definitely happen. I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual, kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
The young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and he bragged how his subversive WEF, World Economic Forum, has, quoted, infiltrated governments around the world. He said that his organization had penetrated more than half of Canada's cabinet. And I was wondering, in the interest of transparency, could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda?
The member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really...
That not only the $58 million discovered a month ago by Doge being given by U.S. aid through a circuitous route to the World Economic Forum, but over $200 million given by the U.S. to UN, given to them last year alone, and they're finding more and more and more and more and more.
We have continuous partnerships with many governments around the world. And of course, we have NGOs, we have trade unions, we have all those different parts.
Media, of course.
Media, of course.
People always say, where were you? And
that's right.
You and I were having breakfast in New York on September 11th.
So, the 50+ million in U.S. aid funds, the WEF, were canceled, and Klaus Schwab formally steps down. As per Reuters, the whole world saw your communist scams. The fourth industrial revolution, elites must aggressively drive their agenda home. Well, the revolution you thought you'd have is against you. Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, steps down as World Economic Forum chair.
So I just wanted to express my appreciation and my pride, if I may say so, for what has been achieved. But I think the obstacles, or not the challenges, are coming now. And Peter, I wish that you are very successful in preparing the next phase of the Global Fund. So again, thank you.
I can tell you, it's not Ursula von der Leyen. She is not making any decisions. It's not Bill Gates. It's not even Klaus Schwab, right? They're not the ones calling the shots, because they're the idiots that hang their face in the camera and advocate for all of this nonsense and you know, this totalitarian crap. So it's not them. But who it is, I really don't know. I have no idea. And I usually refer to them, for the lack of a better word, as the globalitarian misanthropists, right? So there is a group of people, I have no idea who they are, but they are the ones calling the shots. And our elected governments are mere puppets. They are just, you know, pretty much implementing whatever they come up with. To what end and what their goal is, to me, it seems quite obvious. It is to ultimately erect a one world government and to transform our liberal, open, democratic, equal societies consisting of free individuals into some kind of a collectivism where the individual is becoming merely a malleable part that can be shuttled around any which way the globalitarian misanthropists need you to be shoveled around.
We're living through a pandemic that continues to ravage communities in every corner of the globe. Climate change wreaking havoc on our planet. with the most vulnerable suffering most of all. The few weaponizing lies and disinformation at the expense of the many. And from the horrific war in Ukraine to the rolling back of constitutional rights here in the United States, we are witnessing a global assault on democracy and freedom.
If there is one group that has never hidden its desire to shape the world in its own image, it is the World Economic Forum, or what we say the WEF. Originally set up as a place where the top business and political leaders could meet and promote a free market capitalism and global cooperation, the WEF has over time transformed into something very different. What was once meant to be a platform for serious economic debate is now often viewed as a stage for woke ideas, vague promises, and elite-driven agendas that seem far removed from the real problems faced by the ordinary people. And at the heart of the World Economic Forum is Klaus Schwab, the man who founded it over 5 decades ago. Schwab has always been clear about his vision and influence. In fact, he has openly bragged about his connections and sway over the global leaders. especially in countries like France and Canada. This hasn't sat well with many critics, who believe that WEF has overstepped in its role and is starting to behave more like an unelected world government. But things are about to change, or are they? On 21st of April, Klaus Schwab has officially stepped down from his role as the chairman of the World Economic Forum. In a statement, he stated, and we quote, "As I enter my 88th year, I have decided to step down from the position of the chair and as a member of the board of trustees with immediate effect." The World Economic Forum thanked Schwab for his 55 years of service and praised his role in shaping the forum into what it is today, a key global platform, or what we say, an elite platform that is now controlling many parts of the government in world. They added that in a rapidly changing world, the need for open and inclusive dialogue is more important than ever. Of course, whether the World Economic Forum truly promotes inclusive dialogue is highly questionable. Many argue that it only serves the interest of the global elite. Earlier this month, Reuters had already reported that Schwab is planning to step down from the leadership, but no clear date was ever provided. And now, when he has stepped down, a new leader has come into focus. The board met and has appointed Peter Brabeck-Letmathe as the interim chairman. And now, here it is where the things get even more worrying. Peter Brabeck is no stranger to the controversy. As the former CEO and chairman of Nestlé, he has stated and has shared a lot of criticism. Under his rule, Nestlé controlled a large part of the world food chain and sadly still continues to do so. Nestlé has been long accused of unethical practices across the globe, from aggressive marketing of baby formula in developing countries to draining water supplies in drought-hit regions. The list of issues linked to the company is long and ugly. But what truly shocked people was Brabeck's views on something as basic as water. During his time at Nestlé, he openly questioned whether water should be considered as a human right. He stated, and we quote, "There are two opinions on the matter. The one opinion, which I think is extreme, is represented by the NGOs, who bang on about declaring water as a public right. That means that as a human being, you should have a right to water. But now that is an extreme solution." Yes, you heard that right. The man who now leads the World Economic Forum now thinks that the idea of water as a fundamental human right is an extreme solution. And of course, this opinion is conveniently benefiting Nestlé, the world's largest bottled water supplier, which controls a significant portion of the global water business. Nestlé itself is accused of many human rights violations and ending the breastfeeding concept. And so, putting Brabeck in charge is like replacing a fox with a wolf. If Klaus Schwab had a vision of reshaping the world according to elite interest, Peter Brabeck may push those interests even further, but with a less subtlety and more corporate arrogance. Klaus may have been clever in many ways, but appointing Brabeck could be his final trick, handing the reins to someone who might be even more ruthless. Schwab may be gone, but the World Economic Forum's grip on global narrative continues, and under Brabeck, it may even become tighter.
Die eine Anschauung, extrem würde ich sagen, wird von einigen von den NGOs vertreten, die darauf pochen, dass Wasser zu einem öffentlichen Recht erklärt wird.
There is so much of significance going on in the world that totally dominates the media cycle. You know, we're talking interest rate rises, war, politics, but believe me, it's all a part of a steady diet of distraction. Now, I say distraction because there are many other things going on that receive next to no public attention, but they really do have the potential to influence your life. Now, some of them involve our regular sparring partners on this program, people or groups like the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. Take, for example, the United Nations. The UN is warning that the world is headed towards a global recession and prolonged stagnation unless we quickly change the current policy course of monetary and fiscal tightening in advanced economies. That's contained in a new report released by the UN Conference on Trade and Development. It goes on to say the policy-induced global recession could be worse than the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2009 and adds excessive monetary tightening and inadequate financial support could expose developing world economies further to cascading crises. And while all regions will be affected, alarm bells are ringing, most for developing countries, many of which are edging closer to debt default. Let me put that in plain language to you. As the Western world puts up interest rates and stops the money printing, the world is grinding to a halt, and it could cause a catastrophic financial problem. But the underlying undercurrent of this is that if we didn't have so many pesky governments and inept politicians to ruin our lives, then maybe we wouldn't be driven into this recession. And I suspect the United Nations means things would be so much better if the UN, in all its unelected wisdom, was actually running the world. Then you see they could enact more policies from our overlords at the World Economic Forum. We speak about them all the time here. They are still keen on transforming the world in their image via the Great Reset and the grandly titled Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I have to say, they sound somewhat buoyant over how things are progressing thus far. See, right now, the WEF are providing a platform for those pushing a My Carbon initiative. And okay, they'll describe it differently, but in my words, it's essentially a personal carbon social credit system that will track everything you do, everything you buy, everything you eat. It's like Big Brother. Now, to understand why the WEF are so happy, I'm going to quote directly from their website. Here it goes. COVID-19 was a test of social responsibility. A huge number of unimaginable restrictions for public health were adopted by billions of citizens across the world. There were numerous examples globally of maintaining social distancing, wearing masks, mass vaccinations, and acceptance of contact tracing applications for public health, which demonstrated the core of individual social responsibility. That's the WEF's words. And why wouldn't they be encouraged by that? I mean, the world accepted unimaginable restrictions with nary a whimper. Just imagine how that is going to embolden their next PSYOPs projects as they attempt to enslave us all. And they're also boasting about their fourth industrial revolution. It's making progress, apparently. And they're using blockchain technology, likely, which will be integrated with central bank digital currencies, to keep track of everything we do. But it's all to save the planet, of course. That's why you see they advocate increased costs for carbon-intensive activities. Now, these activities are things like transport, construction, electricity and the like. And they also want to reduce demand for certain, quote, unspecified things. But I'm guessing they mean the important stuff that I just discussed, that really builds a civilised society. But of course, it could also include, say, meat, air travel, how many children you can have. I mean, who knows how far they want to take this demand reduction in the name of decarbonising the planet. And to top it all off, they want the setting of personal levels of acceptable emissions and a new definition of a fair share of personal emissions to enter the lexicon. Nothing to worry about there at all, is there? Now, if you are a conspiracy theorist, which is actually the name the left give to those who can predict the future with remarkable accuracy, you might think this is all happening by design. I mean, the WEF have been upfront about their agenda for us. WEF founder Klaus Schwab even wrote about it in a book entitled The Great Reset. That's where you'll own nothing and be happy. And we do see a global coordination of attacks on our way of life, on our customs, our morals, and our values. Now, these attacks are levied on nation states as well, who oppose this agenda by extraordinary and what I consider to be illegal sanctions of those governments and of individuals residing there. Our Anglosphere leaders, they're meant to be the ones representing the free world. Well, they're also pushing global censorship and global taxation. They are weaponising law enforcement and tax collectors against those who resist. And these same leaders celebrate movements that rely on deceit and destruction and chaos to divide society, while a largely compliant media mostly report only the official interpretation of events. These agents of political change are now so emboldened, they will happily lie, and they seem to have no fear of being exposed. And that's why they seem happy to misrepresent everything from war to science, from economics to biology, in order to condition you to actually accept what is unacceptable. Now, these things had been done before our very eyes, and yet most people refuse to see it. So many still labour under the belief that government does what it does for our benefit. But if that were true, would our nation be nearly $1 trillion in debt? Would Europe be on the cusp of a financial contagion? Would America be a society divided by racial and identity politics? And if government was so helpful, why would allowing all of us to keep more of the money we earn be deemed so controversial amongst politicians? I mean, surely we're capable of spending our money better than any government can. The truth of the matter is that governments around the world are truly desperate. They've made such a mess of things that we're actually on the brink of ruin. And that's why they want these magnificent distractions that I spoke of earlier. They're hoping the more you focus on the light at the end of the tunnel, that you won't see the train that's heading your way.
Have you ever wondered what NESARA and GESARA stand for? Let's break it down. NESARA is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. It's focused on economic reform within the United States, aiming to eliminate debt, create a fair tax system, and provide financial security for everyone. GESARA is the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. It takes those same principles and expands them worldwide, creating a system of global fairness and prosperity. Together, NESARA and GESARA aim to bring financial equality, release suppressed technologies, and reset the world's economy for a brighter future.